Well, I didn't realize the quite yet the rules of going live, but that's not going to take away from what I wanted to do today and talk about anger and sadness. Um, you know, I want to first and foremost start with anger and sadness may go hand in hand. Sometimes people like me, I would get angry, and even though I tried my best to not get angry, every emotion that I could not translate or any emotion that I couldn't regulate turned into anger. I always thought that anger was my base emotion. I was just an angry kid. I was an angry man. So that was what I felt was my base emotion. I I've had a lot to be sad about. I've had a lot to be angry about. But for the longest time, I made anger my go to, and it almost consumed me. At a point in time, it did. So one of the things I want to talk about is how, uh, or what happens between consumption and motivation, and what the difference is, and how it applies to myself now. So, as you guys, if you guys know me, I was part of the 82nd Airborne. I decided to join the infantry. I had a list of jobs that I could have chose from, but I was so angry. I just wanted out of where I was. Um, I enlisted into the army, and like within 3 months, they were like, "All right, bye." So poof, off I went because I chose the easiest job to get into. Um, Physically demanding, but I even remember what the recruiter asked me. He asked me four questions. He says, "You ever been camping before?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay." "You ever shot a gun before?" I'm like, "Of course." "Okay." He goes, "All right, all right." You ever jumped out of a plane?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "Well, do you wanna?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I tried to join the most badass thing that I could just to get out. And at the time, I was living in New Mexico with my grandmother, and who was encouraging me to do anything else other than go to the military. But me being me and stubborn me, angry me, nah, I just wanted out. So off I went. Um, from that point on, I thought I was where I was meant to be, and it just kind of wasn't the case. I had gotten married young. Um, Things weren't right there. I was, there's a lot that I could say, um, and that was my fault, and a lot of regrets that I live with, and that I've had to come to peace with. At first, not angry with, but I have come to peace with it. So, um, in summary, because I'm not going to air out my dirty laundry, that's not fair to anyone. But in summary, like there was some pretty defining moments within the last 10 years. Um, One of them being was I had a family member come down, someone who I really wanted to be a part of my life, and I was attacked, and I more than defended myself. Uh, it broke my heart so much that I had to, or doing what I did, it hurt me more than it would ever hurt him. And I broke. Like, I just didn't know how to process that. For somebody that I wanted in my life for so long, I cast out pretty quickly with my right hand, um, and it hurt. I was so sad that I didn't know how to process it, so I just got angry. So angry to the point where I wished ill will. I was actively looking to act upon that ill will. And, the only people that suffered from it other than myself were the people around me. And I that does hit me where I am truly sad, because who knows where my life would have turned out, how it would have turned out had I had a better grip of my emotions. Um, but needless to say, I had to overcome that, and it I didn't really let it click until I got divorced. You know, the person that I thought would be the answer to everything, which is not fair to put that upon anybody, um, left, and she was gone. Again, we're not going to air out dirty laundry. We're not going to, you know, point fingers or cast out anyone. So we ain't going to deal with any of that. But I will say that it put me into such a dark spot. I put myself in a dark spot, practically. I didn't know what to do with my life. I was very angry all over again and sad. Like, again, when I couldn't process the sadness, I just got angry. So, the difference being now and then is that when I would take those moments of, you know, those defining moments, and I just get angry about it when I was younger. And then now I take those moments and I use them as motivation, and I'll explain. When I met my current wife now, I went through this like little change, this huge change mentally. I started doing things for myself before I was able to go and do things, you know, for others. One of those being was like, you know, I started looking good and I started taking care of myself. I started dressing better. I started taking more. I was paying more attention to myself and trying to make myself look good. And in doing so, like I did, you know, and somebody noticed, like Brittany. But it wasn't enough. You know, it wasn't enough for me. I end up going to CODA, which is Correctional Officer Training Academy, and in there I found myself like this passion, this fire in me, that ambition again. So now I'm taking care of myself. Now I find ambition. Now I'm bringing back the good parts of me, of the old me that I lost to that family trauma, that I've lost to the divorce, that I lost to the army. Like I am finding all the good parts of myself to bring back, and I did. I found it through my peers. I found it through my work, and I found it through my family. Well, then, taking those moments, and instead of letting it consume me and get angry and I wallow away in my pain, as I did for many, many years before, you know, meeting my wife, like that's the difference. Is that I started doing, I wasn't just doing things for myself out of selfishness. I was doing things for myself out of survival. You know, the one big story that I have from the military is the night that I fell out of a plane. You know, I hit the drop zone with a cigarette roll for a parachute. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It sucks. I practically didn't have a parachute. The thing that saved me, though, was me landing on someone else's chute. Well, anyways, when I hit the ground, I accordion on the drop zone. I shatter. And I'm sitting there screaming on the ground. And the person I landed on was like, I'm going to go get help. Never saw him again. But anyways, after a couple of hours of screaming my head off, it dawned on me that nobody can save me except for me right now. So I threw on my bag, I had my Chemlite popped, put it on top of my ruck, and I crawled. All arms, no legs, all arms. And I crawled about 1.5 miles to the casualty collection point. And about 100 meters out, somebody saw my little red Chemlite on top of my backpack or my rucksack, and they came running out to me, and they put me on a stretcher, got morphine, you know, a whole shebang. But in that is the lesson that I'm trying to portray to you guys, is that at some point in time, the kicking and screaming won't do you any good. You know, the only way to save yourself is yourself. And you can have help from prayer, you can have help from your peers, you can have help from your family, but ultimately, no matter what, whatever you're feeling, the regrets that you have or the pain that you carry, the only way to move forward, the only way to find progress is through yourself. And you got to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to stay there, or do you want to move? Because the choice is entirely up to you. Don't let your anger, don't let your sadness consume you.